So first of all, sorry. So first of all, we have to think about the objectivity of the project. Why university students are given in the final semester a project? In general, if we talk about the projects are the real scenario works or implementation of the technology and knowledge earned by you. So far, the project given in your syllabus, like in MCA and BCA in the final semester, this is a kind of semi-commercial, or is a kind of your first introduction to industries, and this is the first opportunity you are going to get to develop a real life software. So what is the objective, if you call? Basically, every student should come up with a real life software by applying the techniques and tools learned during the study of BCA and MCA. Now proceed to activity involves in project, or what we call, before starting a project, what are the activity we supposed to do? First of all, the identification of organization and get permission to do project work. It means you have to identify an organization, because it's an industrial project. You cannot do it as a dummy project or self project or in the classroom or in the institution where you're studying. So you have to find out an organization, and now this organization may be a private or government, any. It may be a college, it may be a university, it may be a nursing home, it may be a sales system like CNF agent, distributor or retailers. Any kind of organization you have to find for your project, and also you have to get a permission from that organization and their authorities that they should allow you to the project. Then for getting this permission from them, you should take a letter of request of project to the organization. That project letter can be issued by the coordinators of your study center, or maybe from regional center authorities. On the basis of that request, your identity, they can allow you a project. Then once organization is confirmed, then they will also ask you, and you have to also decide that what work you are going to undertake in your project. As you know, the softwares are automations. So you are going to generate an automation for that organization. Now, automation of organization may be a complete or total automation, or maybe some modular automation or some subsystem automation. So you have to select a particular area which you are going to cover in your software project to automate it for that organizations. Then identification of the guide. This is the time. Again, you have to select a person as per eligibility given in your project guideline booklet, and request him by showing the detail of the organization and the work you have decided to take. And after getting his consent, you have to submit his proposal, biodata also along with the proposal. But the important thing, you have to decide a suitable title for the project. The title mostly will be the name of your software, which will reflect the functionality of the software. Then define a that is called the defining a suitable system name as a project title. And the letter for request is already we have discussed. Then prepare the synopsis for the project. Again, it is as per guideline of the project guideline booklet. You have to prepare the synopsis with the consent and with the regular guidance of your guide. Then submission of the synopsis to the regional center, and once regional center will approve it and send you approval, then you will start the actual project work. Then project activities. Once your approval is done, now you have to start your project. Then what you have to do in your project activity? The very first thing is perform system study, and that is perform the analysis or initial analysis you call, or project initiation, everything. Based on the analysis, you prepare feasibility justifications, and then prepare overall system design based on analysis document using the design tools like structure charts and DFD context diagram. And nowadays you can use UML tools like use case diagrams and other tools within the UML. Then comes project activities. Prepare a detailed design. These are the very comprehensive one. Then comes to the detailed designs, in which everything should be detailed as per the specification which you prepared in analysis. These things are further discussed in the next slides. So these detailed design will consist on data dictionary, ERD, flowcharts, logical schema of the data, report layout, that is input output design. Then once the design is completed, analysis is completed, then you have done design. Once design is completed, now it is time for translating the design into code. That means development of the code. And once you go for development, you have to decide, however it is decided in the synopsis itself, that what will be the front end and back end tools you are going to develop for this project. Then comes once the coding is completed, then it is time for testing. You have to go for the testing of the software properly in the different level using the various methodologies under various strategy. Then you have to prepare, when testing is okay and completed, then give a plan for implementation or select the implementation method. Thereafter, you implement the software and go for future scope of this software. You have to mention it, specify it within your documentation, that what will be the future scope of your software which is recently developed. Now the details of analysis means you have to perform the requirement analysis. And while doing the requirement analysis, you have to follow the standard given by IEEE. Presently, IEEE 830 standard is accepted at industry level as a best practices for writing the SRS. So, software requirement specification is your first target, in which you will have to prepare some model of the software, so that it should be giving a very overall concept of this software being developed, or the system you are going to be automated. And these two model may be based on dynamic and a static model. The static model will be reflecting the subsystem, the module and the function levels with the tool of a structure chart or use case diagram, whatever you select. Then the dynamic model will be a DFD, data flow diagram, or if you are using object oriented, you can do activity diagram. With these two model in the analysis, in the SRS, you depict the overall scenario of the system which you are going to develop. Then comes design details. Normally we call in the design, we have high level designs and detailed designs. So the high level designs will be based on a static model and dynamic models, and data design, of course, which is ERT, entity relationship diagram, and the data dictionary, which represent the connectivity and details of the terminology used in various models. Then comes to detailed design. If you find out, we have the program structure design. The entire modularization and functional module has to be designed exclusively. And logical schema, that means from ERD you have to translate the normalized table structures with constraints and integrities. Then procedural design can be helpful for you to depict a process flow diagram or program flow diagram with the help of a flow chart or algorithms or pseudo, whatever you like to use at this stage. Then in the detailed design we have things called input output design or interface design. Two things. IO design and interface design. Let us talk about interface design. That means viewing the static model structure of the software, you have to design a complete menu driven interface for the user. It may be a graphical user interface or it may be a text user interface, whatever. The menu hierarchy, menu, sub menu, command list, drop down boxes, everything will be given to provide a complete control of the software to the user with excellence of tolerancy, fault tolerancy, robustness, and user friendliness. So these are the basic criteria you have to maintain while designing the user interface. Normally, if it is a web-enabled software, then you can use the home page and nested page and links on the home page. Accordingly, this interface will be working. Then comes the input-output design is concerned. For that, for every modular or every functional level, you have to design the input or forms, that how input will be accepted to these functions. And of course, similarly, for every functional output, you have to design the reports or output design, giving the methodology, the look, the design structure of the outputs. In the testing, naturally, you have to select the level of testing first of all, like unit testing, integration, and finally system level or acceptance testing. So all these levels you have to perform. Then method of testing, maybe this is not exactly method, these are the strategy. So you have to perform both of the strategy, black box testing and white box testing, and selecting some of the method within it. For this, again, you have to refer the software engineering block, which you have studied in MCA 3rd SEM, MCS 34, or for BCA, you can refer the software engineering in the 5th semester you have studied BCS 51. That will give you a complete reference for all the SDLC activity which we are making discussion on it. Then you have to mention the scope of the project in terms of modifiability, portability, reusability, updates, etc. Now comes what exactly project components. That means once you are doing a software project under BCA or MCA, what are the things you are going to deal with? So naturally, first of all, the software and the documentation during the process of software engineering generated, that is every phases of the SDLC, like SRS documentation, SRS document we call software requirement specification, then design document, testing document, implementation document, and maintenance, etc. Then of course the project planning and scheduling documents will be also there. So three things are there. That is one, software which must be on your CD installable with database. Then project report should be binded form, and then the another component is your assessment on the basis of project review and the Viva OC. Now the project report contents, what exactly project report will be having inside it. Naturally, this will be according to software process technology. If you follow the SDLC, software development lifecycle, all the phases will be a part of your project report. Analysis, definitely, the complete process will be used, and outcome will be presented as SRS document. Design, another process which will deliver a design document. Coding will be done after design, and the coding will be a list of code, that is line of code printed will be the coding document. And security and testing, we call the security is the part of implementation basically, but the testing is different. Testing is a testing document which will apply all the strategy, the method, the test cases, test report, all this test document will be formulated. And implementation, we will see the method of implementation, the security aspect, the user training, everything will be in the implementation. Then organization means how you will be presenting your project report, the documentation of the project report, and sequencing of the documentation in the project report. Now, what things to be included in SRS under analysis? Project plan, estimation, Project schedule, definitely use a bar chart for schedule depicting that what are the work breakdown structure. And then SRS will have the introduction, then requirement specification. And in requirement, again, you have to note down that you have to give the functional requirement and non-functional requirement. Then the life cycle model adopted for your project and the future scope. Then come in analysis again the data model, system model. Data model will be ERD and the system model will be a structure model, that is static model, and one dynamic model. So either you will be using the structure chart or use case, and for dynamic modeling you will be using the DFD or activity diagram, and a data dictionary which will include all the details depicted, the terms noted inside the SRS as well as in the models. Then comes into design. So what are the things to be included inside the design? The first thing is, if you go with the program design or the software design, is a overall structure of the software. This may be a structure chart, program flow diagram, or class diagram. Then the data design must be a schema, the table structure or data structures. Then data integrity constraints will be specified along with that data design. And then procedure design may be represented using some flow charts, and user interface design will be reflected using forms and reports, which you have to design for every function or every modular or every subsystem level. And for coding, you have to maintain the code standardization, and that code standardizations are mostly based on 3-4 parameters. Number one, the module naming, internal external documentation. Module namings means when we prepare code standardization, we should include the detail of the codes inside the SRS document also. Now, before including the list of code, we have to develop a page where we can put external documentation, and these external documentation will depict that the code is divided into how many subsystem, and which subsystem is divided into how many module, and when it is lastly edited, and who have developed these module and or the subsystems. There are details thereof, and last modifications detail. Internal documentation is called normally the comment lines, which we put inside the line of code as a comment line in sessions. Modification history is another thing which will give you a complete detail of the software codes, which will reflect that initially when it was written, and time and again how much modifications is done, and lastly updated is issued on which date. And how many team is the members of the team are involved in lastly updated, that is also given there. Uniform appearance of code means your code should include some indentations, like you select different columns for representing different things. If you are presenting the iterative looping statement at column 25, then entire code should maintain this uniformity. Similarly, if you are using the input commands lines starting from column 10, then it keeps inside the entire code. So making on that identity of the column, people can find out easily that how many input statements are given inside the module or the functions. Error handling, definitely that will based on parameter passing, procedure call, and return methods, etc. Then security aspect in your project report should also be exclusively maintained, giving details that what are the measures you have taken in your software system, logical and physical security of the database. Then user level security, giving the different role and user ID and hierarchy of user rights for operating the softwares. Like if you see in different software, there are different people are operating, but their access right are limited. So some accessing are permitted to them, and some accessing are permitted to higher people above them who are working in the banks and in railway, in case you can see this security hierarchy. So that kind of mechanism, role definition may be done in your software. That has to be depicted here. And system security, what are the measures you have taken for data level security? That is for firewalls, antivirus, and IP masking. All these things has to be mentioned here. Now the testing details, if you see the test cases, so that means the testing document will include these things: the test plan, test method, and test case, which is included in test case design. That means the plan of the testing, method selected under the strategy, and the test case we call the sample data prepared for the testing. Then after performing the test, what is the report? Is the test successful or unsuccessful? If unsuccessful, then reason should be mentioned, and those reason will be taken for debugging and code improvement, that is called code optimization, and again it will be presented for testing. So in case in your project it happened, you mention it. Don't simply put it that in the first instance it is successful. You say it is unsuccessful and these were the reason. Again we optimize the code. After making the changing of the code, the retesting is performed and this is the final report. This way it will be a better project. Then comes to report organization. Definitely these are the simple methods have to be followed and guideline. Proper binding, that means it should be book binded whenever you are presenting your project report. And indexing must be there properly, accurate organization and proper printout. There should not be any photocopy or xerox. The printout should be in a very legible manner. Then in Viva OC, what happens that your presentations in Viva OC, if it is possible, you take the entire software on a laptop and show it during your Viva OC. It is a very good thing. Otherwise, at least you prepare a PPT of your project. And when you make a PPT, you put emphasis on these points. That is analysis, designs, the coding platform details, testing level you have utilized and the outcome of the testings, and your project function domain, that what are the basic objectivity of your project, what are the basic functionality of the project. This has to be included in your Viva OC phase. Then comes assessment criteria. That is very important for our IGNOU learners. See, what are the basis of your project report and what are the components will be incorporated in your report, which will help you to obtain marks. The distribution of marks is on the project report, it is 150, and for Viva OC it is 50, altogether 200, in which 50% is pass mark for report and 50% is 25 for Viva. And please note it here, if you are pass in project report, your project is passed, but if you are fail in Viva, again you have to redo the complete project as a new project. Or similarly, if your project report is fail and you are pass in Viva, again you have to redo it. So just take care. Now let us see what are the marks distribution, which we have said 150 marks in the project report. Analysis will be having 40 marks, design will be having 30 marks, coding will be having 30, security aspect if you have mentioned 30 marks, testing will be 30, and proper organization of your report will obtain 10 marks. And I'll show you the detail of these marks. See, in analysis, 40 marks, out of which if you have given an estimation or plan in your report, then it will bring 5 marks. Project schedule if you have given, then it will be getting you 5 marks. Similarly, the software requirement is specification, which must be there, which is for 10 marks, and data design, that is data model, 5 marks, system model, 10 marks, and 5 marks for data dictionary. So if you keep it this way of your project report presentation and preparation, then you will be getting optimum marks, because the evaluator are having assessment sheet in which it is distributed. Then we have design, 30 marks. In design 30 marks, the program design, again the static models or structure charts, data design, that is the ER diagram or logical schema. Both may be presented, or schema simply may be presented tabular schema, normalized table schema. Then data integrity, that means the constraint you has mentioned, like entity integrities and referential integrity and the constraints on the various table and attribute. If you had put exclusively while depicting the tables, then it will add 5 more marks in your schema. And procedure, 5 marks for your program flow diagrams, and 10 marks for user interface and IO, input output, combinedly. So you can think that you have given the 5 marks for user interface and 5 marks for input output design. Basically, user interface are normally the menus and sub-menu. When you click a sub-menu, like in MS Word, you go for file and file with new. Then there is a new opening document, dialog box will come up. This dialog box is a form for accepting your requirement in case of open, that which file you want to select or etc. Similarly, in some data entry software, when you select insert new record, then a form opens and it allow you to make data entry. So that input design is the form design, but the user interface from where forms are activated is user interface. Then 30 marks on coding, and that is divided normally internal external documentations purely, that is comment description 10 marks, standardization uniformity of the codes 10 marks, and error handling 5 marks, in which error handling, the procedure call and return mechanism, if it is given exclusively, that how you are managing the parameter passing and procedure call and return, like in Java, try and catch if you are using, that will additionally give you 5 points. Security is 10 marks, and this is divided into database security, role, that means user ID and password hierarchy of user you have made, and planning for antivirus firewall configuration on the servers or the clients of your software, that is 2 marks. Testing is 30 marks. Now if you see the test document having the test case design, which include the plan, the test method and test cases, that is for 15 marks. Then the report is presented, whether it is negative or positive, the way report is presented, that is again 10 marks. And if you see, the complete documentation is given in software engineering blocks in MCS 34 also and BCS 51. You can refer these format for testing documentation. Then debugging and code implementation, if testing is unsuccessful and you mentioning it, then honestly you mention that what are the errors and what are the reason where we have optimized the code, that will add you 5 more marks. And again report organization having some marks, that is for 10 marks. Proper binding, that is book binding 2, indexing 2 marks, and 4 marks for systematic organization. Now what is systematic organization or proper printout? I means if you see the project guideline booklet, there is a chapter given project submission or project formulation guideline point wise. Accordingly the document should be organized, then you will be getting this 6 marks. And in Viva OC, again the evaluator have a right to ask you various questions and from different domains, like from requirement analysis they will be asking question, for that there is 10 marks. From design they will be asking, for which again it is 10 marks. And coding platform front end back end related, not for the code, they will be asking the detail about the front end and back end you selected, and regarding that you should be prepared to answer. So 10 marks for that. And then the testing you have performed, They will not go in detail of the test case, but simply they wanted to know whether you are understanding the level of testing selected and the strategy of testing selected or the method you selected, why, the reason they wanted to know from you. And then functional domain of the project, that is, what are the major concern of your project, what are the greater relief to your client with this software going to be get once it is implemented. That is given the functional domain, that is what functions your project is going to perform after its completions. At the last, we should say you that whenever you comes with any industrial viva, interview for your selection for a job, or finally you are appearing a viva of your project within the university domain, there must be some way that should be followed while appearing for any interview or viva. The most important, as I suggest, which is not mentioned in this slide, honesty. You must be very honest. Then you should go to the people with very humble gesture and greet the people once entering. Then seek the permission, definitely. Wait for the question, don't start yourself, and answer properly. If anything is asked, then you should concentrate only to that point, whatever has been asked. You should not exaggerate from there. Listen patiently means do not interrupt. If anybody interrupted you in between when you are explaining, then you stop, listen him properly. Then after, you start it. And if you don't know the proper answer, then please do not try to divert it some way. Simply say, sorry, I don't know, sir, for regarding any question. So these are the some facts which you people have to follow while doing your projects. And hopefully you should be following it, benefited it. So work with it and get a good project for yourself.